on Facebook, on Rumble, and right here on X. Happy Wednesday, my friends. And welcome to the Liz Wheeler Show, where we seek the truth day in and day out as the merry band of skeptical optimists that we are. I am very excited for today's episode because we have with us today a very special guest. Now, before I introduce you to this guest, I want to give you a little context on who he is and why he is important. On a recent episode of Jubilee's podcast called Surrounded, you've probably seen this podcast. The premise of the show is you have one person, usually a leftist, who is surrounded in a room by 20 people who oppose that person's viewpoint, and the one individual debates all 20 of the opposing people holding the other viewpoint. Well, on a recent episode of Jubilee's show Surrounded, Black actress Amanda Seales, who is a radical leftist very openly, so radical leftist, in fact, that she defended Jussie Smollett. And I'm not talking about just defending Jussie Smollett when some people thought that he was the victim of an actual crime, mega country in downtown Chicago in the middle of the night, 2 a.m., a noose around his neck. She wasn't just one of the people who bought into that fake hate crime. She was supportive and a defender of Jussie Smollett even once it was exposed that he had committed a fake hate crime against himself. This is a quote from her. She said, "Even if it was a hoax, for the sake of bringing attention to this," I can only assume she's talking about racism, "then I'm like, that's low-key noble." For context, this is the woman who is debating 20 young Black conservatives. And the topic, the thesis that they were debating is, quote, "It's undeniable that reparations are just and necessary." So Amanda Seales took the position that reparations are just and necessary. And she debated 20 young conservatives who said, no, that's not true. So, of course, when the topic of systemic racism in America was brought to the forefront. And this, by the way, systemic racism is the bedrock proposition of critical race theory. We remember this from breaking down critical race theory. Critical race theory says that America, our country, is irredeemable because our country itself, our government, and our civil institutions are fundamentally racist, irredeemably racist. That our entire country, again, civil society and the government, was built on the backs of slaves. And inherent racism is systemically interwoven into all of our government and cultural institutions. And therefore, the only solution to get past this is essentially to abolish the institutions, cultural and government. Well, when this topic of systemic racism became a point in this debate on Jubilee, one very young Black man absolutely slaughtered Amanda Seales' poisonous leftist, racist, critical race theory ideology. Take a look at this. That's the wrong video. The right video. And we'll get to this, by the way, this story a little bit later in the show. The truck driver, the illegal alien who murdered
talk about it
3
here
people.
In the light of
We'll bring up the... Yeah, we'll pull it up on X. It's okay. This is what happens sometimes when you do a live production. It's worth it. I promise to wait and see this video. He's 18 years old and he is contending one-on-one, face-to-face with a very skilled critical race theorist, a woman who buys into the ideology that if you have white skin, that means you have inherently benefited from racism. Even if you've never held a racist thought or made a racist comment or engaged in any racism, because you have white skin, you are inherently racist. This is a woman who believes that Black people, even though Black people today face no systemic racism, they certainly aren't slaves. They're not subject to Jim Crow laws in the United States anymore. Critical race theory holds that they are the oppressed. And of course, we've talked about this often on the show. Critical race theory is an inherently Marxist ideology. It pits, of course, the oppressed against the oppressor for the express Marxist purpose of the oppressed overthrowing the so-called oppressor. Now we have this clip. Let's take a look.
You can give everyone here like a $50,000 check, especially people that are in the streets who are committing violent crimes consistently. A $50,000 check, it's not going to fix anything. It's not going to increase the median household income in the next 10 years by 10% or 20%. For example, we have the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. We prevented Chinese people from getting citizenship and even entering the country. We discriminate against them and basically put them under apartheid, even here in the United States. Yet they have the highest median household income. How is that possible? How come they don't complain and feel entitled consistently to beg for reparations and beg for this when they are killing each other 90% of the time, which is the rate that Black people kill each other, according to the FBI?
Oh, young Matt.
Yet white people are the oppressors.
I'm not sure where your education came from, but they lied to you.
Stats don't lie, though.
Statistics lie all the time. So let's start there, particularly when the statistics are coming from the sources that gain from the statistics being shown a different way. So if you're going to start your argument on stats don't lie, you've already lost the argument. They lie all the time. One, comparing Chinese people who are immigrants that made a choice to come to the United States and comparing the continued effort of Black people to ground themselves in a nation that continues to make impediments for them to show and live and exist in their true citizenship is a false equivalency.
I don't believe that happens at all. What? No one here is in.
Are you acting right now? Do you really believe
I'm telling
this?
the truth. There's no systemic racism that I've experienced here in America. What system is racist? I think the only racism we've actually seen recently, systemic racism that we've seen, is the application of systemic racism against white people. The University of Western Washington, for example, has been trying to segregate dormitories using Black-only dormitories because Black people feel safer amongst each other, but they're more likely to kill each other than white people are ever to kill them. That's just the truth. You have King Von rapping about killing other Black men. Why should I think that the white man is the oppressor when Black men are more likely to kill me?
Oh my God, this is scary. You need to think about me as your mama. Do not talk to me in that fashion. So let's check that now. Okay. So on a basic level, we have to understand that systemic racism is grounded in the realities that Black people have not been considered an equal human being in this country since its onset. So there's simply no way to make the argument that there isn't systemic racism. And we have seen in very clear ways the system operate in an organically racist way. Do not cut me off.
Okay, so he did an outstanding job, right? She had zero response to, it's not just facts, the reality that he spoke. Statistics lie, she says. Yet she didn't name one false statistic that he listed. Your education failed you, she claimed, but she could not debunk any of the history that he referenced. Think of me as your mama. Don't speak to me in that tone, she said, as he was entirely respectful. And I imagine his mother was extremely proud. And we have him on the show with us today to talk about his experience and what happened behind the scenes on the set of the Jubilee show. He's going to join us in just a moment. Today's episode is proudly brought to you by All Family Pharmacy. Are you tired of the doctors telling you no? You can't get prescriptions for affordable off-patent medications. Insurance won't cover what actually works for you. Well, if this is you, you are not alone. Millions are frustrated with our broken healthcare system. All Family Pharmacy is your alternative. All Family Pharmacy is a patient-first, independent pharmacy. They connect you with licensed U.S. doctors who approve your prescriptions online, fast and legally. No gatekeeping, no insurance middleman, no red tape. They offer affordable, high-demand medications that are often hard to access, for political reasons. Ivermectin, for example, at All Family Pharmacy, you can get it starting at just $2. Medbendazole, hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, NAD, over 200 different options. You order online, it takes just moments. A licensed doctor then reviews and approves your prescription. Medications ship straight to your door, so no clinic visits, no hassle. Everything is secure, HIPAA compliant, and pharmacist reviewed. You choose the medication, not an insurance company or a scared physician. Real healthcare freedom means you decide what's right for your body. Transparent pricing, no surprise bills, trusted by thousands of Americans who are taking control of their health. It's time to put your medical freedom back in your hands. So visit allfamilypharmacy.com/Liz. And because you are part of the MAHA movement, use my code Liz10 at checkout for an exclusive discount. It's your health. It should be your choice. No more waiting. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/Liz, code Liz10. All right, let's bring him on the show. This is Matt Nuclear, the 18-year-old young man who absolutely destroyed critical race theory. Now, as you may have guessed, this is an alias that Matt is using, which is understandable in today's climate. Matt, that you feel you have to use an alias after going on a show like this?
Well, I mean, I've always kept the alias, even when I was doing TikTok live debates, but probably for at least right now, yeah. Although I think that might change in the future.
Well, we hope it does, because I was very impressed by watching this video. I mean, you did an amazing job. As I said, you were incredibly respectful. You used statistics and facts. She had no response. Tell me a little bit about yourself. I'd never heard of you or seen you until I saw this clip going viral on X. So who are you?
Well, I'm an 18-year-old kid who just graduated high school a few months ago, who has been doing TikTok live debates about Donald Trump, just geopolitics in the Middle East and things of that sort. And I was invited on Jubilee to participate in a, debate with, critical race theorist Amanda Seales. And I was like, sure, I'm down. I'm down to debate any liberal or leftist that is out there. I'll take this opportunity. And this is kind of how everything popped off, right?
Yeah, and it's so interesting. So what's your background, right? Like when you bring facts like this and a belief system that is unusual to hear from anybody in your generation, particularly maybe a young Black man, what formed your beliefs?
Well, the thing is, I think just trying to be a data-driven or research-driven, right? I've always been remembered, like even being a young kid, people telling me that America's a racist country. I never really experienced racism. There's systemic racism and all these different things. And the older I got, the more I got into research and understanding these things. And I'm like, well, I don't really see any systemic law that's holding Black people back. I think there was a lot of more internal issues happening within the Black community and Black people putting themselves down and not prioritizing the right things, which is why they make less money or why some of these gaps exist. And again, what these leftists, have been trying to do and indoctrinate me into believing is that because disparities exist, racism causes the disparities. And I'm like, well, if Chinese Americans make more than white Americans, is that due to racism or any of these different things? So I think just getting into the whole perspective of understanding data, understanding what's going on, and being, stat driven, which he obviously does not like, kind of form my perspectives in general, right? Being someone who's curious and looking to understand things.
So was your family, were you raised in a conservative household, or did you investigate these facts and look at the history and stuff yourself?
Well, my family isn't necessarily conservative, although they are Christian. Right, I was born and raised in a Christian household. My father is a pretty political person, although he's not necessarily a conservative or a liberal. He's just a political person in general. My mother isn't really a conservative. She's not really someone who cares too much about politics. But I think these ideas kind of formed alone, right? It's not like any of my brothers were really into politics or any of these things. I just kind of liked debating people online. I've been debating people since I was like 15. And so it's kind of just been going on from there, just learning new things and understanding the world and how things are, right?
So did you read to learn about this stuff? Do you like to watch podcasts? Where did you, especially if this is fascinating to me, if sounds like you were raised in a good household, but not necessarily one that said, hey, this is what we believe. We're activists. You should also, agree with what we believe. What books did you read? What people do you listen to? Who I guess switched that light on and was like, oh, that person is correct and I've been lied to in school?
Well, it was not just one person. It was multiple different people. I did love watching debates. I've watched Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk, Ben Carson. Although he's not really necessarily a debater, his autobiography and his story in general is also great. That's someone also I look forward to. His book Gifted Hands. That was also a pretty decent book that talks about his upbringing and how he struggled and how he was able to still lift himself up even while not being born in a wealthy community or area. Him focusing on academia and stuff like that. Thomas Sowell, obviously, and all of those people are kind of the people that I've looked up to. People who are empirically driven, looking to find out the stats and numbers, and not they are willing to be not very much liked by the general Black community or leftist community in general, but they believe in what they believe in and they say the truth, and that's kind of what inspired me.
And that's so fascinating. By the way, in the live chat, I hear you. We're having your audio is a little bit low, Matt. Some people want it to be turned up if there's any way that you can.
Is it better now?
A little bit. We're working on it behind the scenes too, guys. So just stick with us. We're going to be talking to Matt for a little bit here because I'm so interested. Did you ever fall for the critical race theory stuff? Did you ever fall for the DEI stuff, the affirmative action stuff? Was there a moment where you're like, hey, yeah, that's right?
I think when I was really, really, really young, I think maybe when I was like 10 years old, I might have believed it for like a second, but it's not something that I've always like deeply believed in necessarily. Right. So it's not really. I don't think that to a point where I could really have a political opinion. I don't really think I believed it. I was kind of more interested in trying to figure out what was going on. So I wouldn't necessarily say so.
Okay. Was there a part of critical race theory or a part of this, systemic racism narrative that, I mean, it's really just young people are inundated with this everywhere. I mean, you mentioned in rap, in Hollywood, movies, music,
Right.
Obviously politics, in school, everywhere, on TikTok. Was there a part of it that I don't want to say rang true to you because it's not true, but was there a part of it that was tempting to you? Because I feel like a lot of people might be tempted with identifying as a victim because the left wants to reward victimhood?
Not necessarily. I don't really think I ever bought it. I did, watch a lot of the, drama movies, the gangster movies, like Tupac and all of those different things, and I saw the whole rap music, the genres, and hip hop in general. But I don't know if I really ever bought into that narrative. I think as soon as I started doing research or even understanding what is going on, I
Yeah.
kind of, always have been a conservative or someone who did not align with those views. But maybe when I was younger, maybe when I was like maybe 10 or 11 years old, you could tell me that racism or systemic racism existed, but not until I could actually form an opinion, I don't think.
Well, I mean, these days, if you're in kindergarten, you might get what's that book? Like A is for anti-racist. They actually do
Oh,
try to indoctrinate kids in this stuff from the time that they're like toddlers. So, what happened behind the scenes at Jubilee? I saw on your newly minted X account that you said that there was a part of the show that actually didn't make it to air. A part of the show, someone was kicked out or something. Explain to me what went on that you said was not actually in the episode.
Well, well, again, she was really disrespectful. There is breaks, I think, after the second claim is made. And again, she was really disrespectful. There was a person who
Yeah.
came on who said something a little snarky towards her, and she was like, "I'm done with this person right here, right now. I'm not going to debate him." And she had him completely removed. Like he couldn't even sit down. Right? It was just completely removed.
And that wasn't on the show.
No, I never made it.
What did he say something disrespectful, or did she just
He
not
said
want to
something
contend?
snarky. That's it. He just said something snarky. Like he responded. I don't know exactly what he said verbatim, but he responded in a snarky way to how she's been behaving with other people, and she didn't want to debate him, and she also didn't want to debate me either. There was a
Yeah.
point where when I said that redlining didn't happen the way that people thought it really happened, she also really didn't want to debate me, and they had to cut that out too. But yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And I wondered, did when she made that comment, think of me as your mama and don't speak to me in that tone. Did you show your mom that?
I haven't shown my mom that yet, although I did send her some clips. What's really embarrassing is the fact that she would say that, because I was really respectful. When I
You
first
were.
came up to debate her, I shook her hand, I complimented her, and I was just trying to be respectful, mention stats, and speak as eloquently as I could. And she responded by speak to me as if I was her mother, and I was like, what the hell is going on? And the reason why I still tried to be respectful even afterwards was because I didn't want her to quit. Like throughout the entirety of
Yeah.
the episode, she kept basically threatening to leave and to stop debating people because of how like we were treating her. So I was like, I don't really want to. I don't want to be disrespectful to her to any extent because I don't want her to just quit and this never gets posted online. So yeah, that was really weird. Like that's not a thing
Yeah.
you say to someone. Treat me as if I am your mother during a high intense debate, right, or a
Yeah.
conversation with someone. Really
No,
weird.
that's a very emotional reaction. And actually, that's interesting that you say that she was doing that to a lot of people, threatening to quit, because that's kind of taking the entire production emotionally hostage. If they don't, if they don't act the way that she wants them to act, then she's going to wreck the whole thing. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that someone like that would behave in an immature way like that. But I can tell you, I'm actually very critical of people on our own side on the right if they are not respectful in debates. I have a higher standard for people on the right because I want us to be unimpeachable in our behavior. I don't want us to get bogged down in, oh, this person was snarky, this person was disrespectful. Like I just want to get people on the facts, get people on the reality. So I have a very high a flashing sensor for that. And you were respectful. You were absolutely fine. You were just engaging in a fact-based debate that she knew she lost, so she had to make it personal. Okay, you also have another video, and I'm gonna get, by the way, into the reaction from the Black community too. You've had a big response from the Black community. Actually, let's go ahead and play that video now. This is one of the responses that that was thrown your way after this clip went viral on X. Spence, if we could play that.
That's it.
He said that there is no systemic racism. That the systemic racism is actually towards white people. I'm not even wasting my time of day. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna eat you. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna punch you to the moon. That's it. And I think that's where we fail. Where we fail is that we try to converse with some of these people. No. What you do is you have someone come up behind them, and that's it. End of story. That's it. There is no talking to them. There is no associating. There is no, well, let me debate you. No.
Matt, what's your reaction to this? That's pretty jarring. You're 18 years old. I know you've been debating for a couple years now, but it is a couple years. How do you respond to this?
That guy, his name is Amazing Lucas. He's on YouTube. I'm pretty sure he's on X as well. Again, he's a really disrespectful dude. A lot of people made reaction videos to the entirety of the debate, but this guy was the most disrespectful, threatening to beat somebody up because of a conversation, because they don't politically agree with you, is barbarism and it's savagery, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this is the how most black men behave, but a significant amount of black men, they apparently do not want to engage in these conversations. They don't want to discuss this. They don't want to take it as a reality. And resorting to violence when people are talking about things politically that aren't violent at all, just mentioning stats, focusing, telling you what to prioritize in terms of the community is crazy. I mean, the fact that he's like saying, someone should come behind him and smack him or something because he politically disagrees with me is he's just embracing the stereotypes at this point, right? Which is,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, he's kind of proving your point that they
Right.
don't want to engage in a fact-based debate. The people on the left don't. Whose response to you do you think has been the worst?
I remember that there was this woman, I forget her name. She was on YouTube. She made a reaction video where she called me Mr. Angola, and like again,
Because you're
there's
from
so many
Angola,
things.
right?
Yes, I was born in Angola. Yes, yes. And she referred to me as Mr. Angola. She called me anti-black and all of these different things. I think her reaction was pretty funny. Again, I see a lot of these reactions as humorous. I don't take them to of much seriousness. They are just reacting as Amanda Seales did, not actually responding to any of the arguments or any of the stats, but more just emotional, going
Yeah.
after the person ad hominems and so on and so forth. But
Yeah, it's a little.
that guy probably, is the funniest one out of all of them.
Yeah, I know. Well, when I watched it, I have to say I did laugh a little bit. Although I suppose if you're analyzing it purely objectively, it's not funny to threaten
Right.
someone else with violence.
Right.
But it is sort of funny. There's actually some reactions from the right that were also weird. Rob Smith, who is he calls himself a conservative commentator. This was his response, and I wonder how you respond to Rob. Rob said, "This dude is a black immigrant from Angola who grew up in Maine. Good points, but I'm entirely uninterested in non-black Americans becoming the faces or voices of black conservatism. We good." What's your reaction to
By the
that?
way, I've seen Rob Smith. He is a black conservative. I'm pretty sure he's a homosexual black conservative as well. He's always been an interesting figure. I've always respected him, and I've seen him online and stuff. It's kind of weird to hear him say something like that. Again, there isn't much difference. Like I get if I came to America when I was like 11 or 10 years old, but I sound like I'm someone who's born here because I came here at 6 years old. Okay, and I was practically raised here. Just because I wasn't, raised where there's a lot of violent crime, Detroit, Michigan, or Chicago, or any of these different places, does not mean that I'm now not a black American, right? So, which is really silly. Yeah, but I mean, disappointed in hearing him saying that, obviously, but is what it is. I mean, if I was raised here, if I learned the language in like what 2 months, I believe, then yeah, I'm totally a black American, right?
Well, I mean, it sounds like racialism from the right too. I mean, that kind of response. I think that
From
kind of
black
I know
men.
Rob Smith personally. I think that kind of response is it's not just ridiculous. I think it's inappropriate. It's the same sort of emotional response. Refusing to contend with what you are saying and judging whether you should be allowed to talk based on the color of your skin. That's exactly what critical race theorists do to white people. So I would probably reject it even more strongly than you're rejecting it and say that's inappropriate and kind of anti-American of a response. Okay, talk to me about how to solve this problem, right? When we talk about, you told me before we went on air that your alias Matt Nuclear, which is a funny one, by the way, that you chose nuclear because of the nuclear family, right? And this is a huge problem within the black community. The nuclear family has been assaulted and tragically very successfully broken in the black community, which I would argue is the root of a lot of the problems that we see in the black community. But it's a difficult proposition in America today. If you are, and I mean, now it's like even young black children, teenagers going through the school system, they face incredible indoctrination in exactly the kind of racialist nonsense that Amanda Seales was propagating to your face. In your opinion, having grown up since age 6 in the United States of America, who or what is the worst culprit indoctrinating black youth?
I would say the Democratic Party or the left in general, right? The Democratic Party has been doing a phenomenal job in indoctrinating black people in general, not even just black kids, and trying to kind of victimize them, trying to say that you are a perpetual victim. The reason why you make less is because of racism, is because of discrimination, is because we need DEI. Americans are inherently racist. I think this is what has been perpetuating this narrative and indoctrinating these children. And I think, again, a lot of people don't want to take responsibility. It is easier to blame others than to say we are not doing certain things that are right. And I think they have contributed to the destruction of the nuclear family because they never talk about this. They never talk about black on black crime. They never talk about the amount of unalivings that happen in Chicago because of gang violence between black people themselves. They never talk about black men rapping about trying to unalive other black men. So they are not focusing on the issue. They are trying to use black people and say that you're a perpetual victim, and if you continuously listen to me, we'll eventually solve the problem by using DEI or affirmative action, right? So I think they have contributed to this issue and this narrative significantly.
Yeah, I think you're correct. By the way, this woman that you debated, I did recognize her, but I wasn't sure of her background. I had to research her background, and the reason I recognized her, I guess, is because she's actually an actress. But she went to Columbia University, which I suppose shouldn't surprise us because she's propagating critical race theory. Where is the home of neo-Marxism if not Columbia University? That's literally where the Frankfurt School came and found a home. The Frankfurt School, of course, were the propagators of critical theory, the grandfather of critical race theory, this cultural Marxism. Her degree from Columbia University is in African American studies with a concentration in hip hop. And as I mentioned, she also defended Jussie Smollett, not just before it was unequivocally debunked as a fake hate crime. She defended him even in the face of knowing that he had lied. She said, even if it was a hoax for the sake of bringing attention to this, I assume she's talking about race, systemic racism. She goes, then I'm like, that's low-key noble. So my question to you is there anything that you wanted to say to her in that debate? You said you held back a little bit because she was holding the whole show emotionally hostage. Is there anything that you wish that you could say to her now?
I mean, I would love to have another conversation with her. I would like to dive deeper on the actual fact checks, right? Like if you go on because they do fact checks.
Yeah.
On the sand fact checkers on Jubilee. I would love for us to go over all of the fact checks because she was proven wrong. She made this claim that prison planners, the people who build these prisons, specifically build them where there is like low literacy rates or something, which was debunked. That was proven false. She also, believed that Europeans just came into the coast of Western Sub-Saharan Africa and start stealing black people. That it was also false. That also did not happen. What actually happened was that there were black people who already owned slaves who sold, these slaves off to the Europeans in exchange for, gunpowder and whatever they were trading at the time. And she didn't know that. I mean, she has a master's in African American history, but she did not know
hip hop
and hip hop as well. But she did not know how the transatlantic slave trade actually happened, which is interesting. And I thought to myself, I probably would say it. I think they should revoke her degree ASAP, right? Because she doesn't deserve to have it. She does not know what she's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, she's probably an example, and I say this with all due respect because I don't sit and look at these people in a snide and snarky way. I actually have sympathy for them because they are just the result of the incredible indoctrination that has been imposed on all youth, but especially Black youth in our country for generations now. In a sense, you don't stand a chance unless you happen from a very young age to reject the experts and do independent study, which I think is starting to happen. But for a long time, maybe before COVID, it wasn't fashionable to reject the experts and people didn't think critically for themselves. You had another video that you posted on your X account after this debate went public. You said that you plan to debunk leftists for decades, that this is what you're going to do now. So what does that look like for you?
Well, I'm going to take every opportunity that I can. I'm not going to disclose everything that I have, upcoming. But I am going to definitely try to keep myself in politics, keep myself in these debates, go back to Jubilee, and continuously have these conversations with whether it's Black leftists, white liberals, white leftists, whoever it is, and continuously debunk their talking points because there's a lot of things to talk about that the left is trying to perpetuate. And I'm someone who's deeply passionate about politics. I love, talking about it, reading it, debating it, having conversations. So I definitely want to do this. I think this is something that I'm interested in.
And if you were picturing yourself speaking to, even your peers, right? Young Black men and women who maybe have suffered some of this indoctrination, what do you feel like are the specific areas that they're most interested in hearing how they've been lied to or what's false? Like, what would be that sort of magic moment for them in your experience that would help open their eyes to the fact that they're being used by the Democratic Party?
Well, I'd like to ask them. The Democratic Party consistently tells you that you're a victim, and the systemic racism exists. But who is more likely to unalive you within your own community? Who is more likely to make songs about how they want to unalive you? Who is more likely to be, influencing gang crime or drug culture and all of those different things on you? Who is more likely to do that to you? If it's within your own community, then you have to focus on an internal problem, on fixing the cultural issues within the Black community itself, rather than trying to say that white people are causing these issues, because white people are not the ones unaliving you. White people are not the ones who are making diss songs or whatever in hip hop about unaliving other Black men. And white people are not racist in general in America. They elected someone who most people would consider the first Black president, obviously, whether some people consider a mixed race, but the majority of people consider him Black. And that takes the majority of Americans, because the majority of Americans are indeed white Americans. So the idea that it's just racism isn't true. It's more of cultural issues, and people recognizing that within the Black community there's a lot of issues and a lot of stereotypes that come from real things that need to be addressed, right? And so that's what I would try to tell them to focus on, is focus on who is holding you back, who is like most likely to be in threat of your success in general, right? And again, there's just to add on to that as well. Even growing up, going to a predominantly Black school, you'd always hear that when someone is, not speaking in the way that you would want them to speak, in the Black tone or the Black accent that you'd want them to have, they're considered whitewashed, and that's a bad thing. Or if you want to be in school, if you want to, be data driven or any of these things, you're just considered a nerd, and that's supposed to be a bad thing. Instead, you should try to be a gangster or a rapper. You know what I mean? Those things don't lead you anywhere but being in prison, or being unalived, right? So again, if you really want to focus, like for any Black woman or a man, listen, if you really want to focus on what the core issue is, it is problems internally within the Black community, not systemic racism, not white people, okay?
What about the Black family? So you talk about like these influences from music or from gang life. How do you fix the broken Black nuclear family?
Well, that is a hard question. It's not easy to just fix it. But I believe that trying to have children with people who are intelligent, people who are willing to actually stay, and people who are who have something going for themselves, who are trying to get a degree in something or trying to find a trade, whatever it is. Not just having children, people who are focused on gang violence or being a savage or hip hop in general. I don't think that is what people who want to have a nuclear family, who want to have a good family foundation, should focus on. Focus on having a child with someone who you actually believe will be there for your child, who will not leave you, who will not end up in prison. So make sure you are, reproducing with people who you believe are going to be something in life. And I think a lot of, Black women in general are just not respecting themselves enough, to the point where they just may have a child with a person who is not going to be there, who is not going to take the child seriously or even afford to have the child. So I think, as if we have more Black people who are being educated, who are understanding what's going on, who are focusing on having children, people who are indeed focused on the right things, then yeah, we'll see definitely progress and less gang crime, because all of those things are associated. If you don't have a father in the home, the child is more likely to be arrested and and also be a deadbeat like his father.
Yeah. Imagine if this were the message in public schools to
Right.
young Black people, instead of the critical race theory that they are currently being indoctrinated with on a day-to-day basis. I think it would not only change individual lives and change families and change communities, it would change our entire country so much for the better. Matt, where can people find you? People are interested in, where they can find you on social media, or where do you want me to point people?
I am Matt Nuclear on TikTok, on YouTube, on X. Those are the three main platforms that I am currently on. So on my TikTok, on my X that I've recently made, it's been like 2 days since I've
Yeah.
made the X account. It's
Yeah, you
already
got a pretty good
17,000
following over there
followers.
already.
Yeah, already 17,000 followers. And I am on YouTube, where I post a lot of the live streams that I do on TikTok as well. I do a lot of live streams on TikTok, so that's where everyone can find me.
All right. Well, thank you for being on the show. It was really great to talk to you. I'm excited to see what you do in the future. And guys, I thank you for being here. And guys, I know the audio was a little bit low. We're going to fix that in post production. So when we post this on the audio platforms, and later on we'll repost it on YouTube, his audio will be boosted just a little bit, because I know some of you said you had a hard time hearing him. But thank you. I really appreciate being on the show. It was great to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Liz. I appreciate you.
Okay, there's a new report from the CDC that says that the birth rate in the United States has hit an all-time low. There's also reasons that this is happening, but it's not the reasons that have gone viral on X. I'm going to show you this viral tweet or this viral post in just a second. Then I'm going to tell you why it's wrong and what the real reason behind this cratering birth rate that we are suffering in our country is from. But first, I want to talk about Crowd Health, one of the sponsors of today's show. What if you could get healthcare for under $100? You've heard me talk about health or Crowd Health a lot because my husband and I think it was last October or November, we quit our health insurance and we joined Crowd Health. Our entire family did, because health insurance is a scam, right? You pay these enormous premiums every month. Your deductible is unreachable. And then when you have a health event and you need insurance to cover it, they deny your claim. We were like, enough of that. We're done. We joined Crowd Health instead. And today I want to tell you about something new that they have just introduced. You can finally rid yourself of the bureaucracy of the healthcare system and take agency over your own health. Crowd Health just introduced what they're calling the Black Swan membership. It's the healthcare alternative for people who want autonomy over their care, their costs, and their lifestyle. They just need a little help with the Black Swan events that do, unfortunately, happen in our lives. For just $95 a month, you get access to a team of health bill negotiators, low-cost prescription and lab testing tools, and a database of low-cost, high-quality doctors vetted by Crowd Health. You stay in control without insurance and their networks dictating your care. And what if something major does happen to you or a member of your family? Well, you pay the first $15,000 and then the crowd, that would be me and my family, steps in to help fund the rest. It feels a lot like the options we used to have before Obamacare messed everything up. If you use the code Liz, it's only $80 for the first 3 months. So go joincrowdhealth.com. Visit joincrowdhealth.com. Use promo code Liz. The mandatory disclaimer here, Crowd Health is not insurance. I personally like to call it assurance. Opt out. Take your power back. This is how we win. Joincrowdhealth.com, promo code Liz. Okay. According to new CDC data, the U.S. birth rate has hit an all-time low. Now, I don't need to tell you that this is a problem. It's a problem for our country financially. It's a problem for our country if we're not replacing ourselves. It's a problem for the existence, the continued existence of our country. And it's been a problem for quite some time, although never as severe of a problem as right now. An all-time low. Fewer babies per capita being born in the United States than ever before. Well, a woman by the name of Melanie Diargio, she is a radical leftist. She is the vice president of an organization for quote unquote women. She is a nonprofit co-founder for an LGBTQIA+++ organization. She's a pretty radical leftist. She had a post on X that went incredibly viral. It's been viewed over 10 million times. She listed the reasons that she says why the U.S. birth rate has hit an all-time low. She says it's because there's no universal health care, no paid family leave, no universal child care, no tuition-free public college, no guarantee of life-saving care when pregnant due to abortion bans, and an average cost of $310,000 to raise a child to 18 years old. She says, of course, U.S. birth rates are at an all-time low. I would just like to point out that that is entirely fake news. It's somewhat surprising that that would even go viral because it is so obviously false. No, the reason that the birth rate in the United States is tragically hitting an all-time low is because 28% of Gen Z was exterminated by abortion. Those numbers come from the World Health Organization. The reason the U.S. birth rate is at an all-time low is because feminism lied to women and told them that having babies is bad, that babies themselves are a burden. They told women instead that women's true value is found in a meaningless paycheck. The reason the U.S. birth rate is at an all-time low is because marriage is falsely and viciously denigrated as patriarchal and stifling. And instead, promiscuity is elevated as liberating, and divorce is celebrated. The reason why the birth rate in the United States is hitting an all-time low is because women are put on birth control as soon as they get their periods. And the implication of that is birth control suppresses their ovulation, which alters the chemical balance of hormones in a woman's body, making her less likely to choose a masculine mate and less likely to desire children. The actual reason, the real reason the US birth rate is hitting an all-time low is because our culture teaches men that they are toxic if they desire to provide for and protect a family. The reason the US birth rate is hitting an all-time low is because a society without God still worships an idol. We are wired as humans to worship. But without God, we worship a false idol. It's usually materialism or worship of self. And parenting. If you parent correctly with eyes to eternity, to shepherding this precious soul that you've been trusted with back to heaven, that's a constant exercise in self-sacrifice, which selfish people don't want to do. They refuse to do. The birth rate in the United States is so low because this deliberate, relentless attack on the nuclear family from the Marxists. We're talking attacks on marriage itself, on men and masculinity, on women and femininity, on sex and gender itself, on sex as the procreative act, and on children. This attack has been successful, very tragically successful. The reason the birth rate in the United States is hitting an all-time low is definitely not because our materially bloated, prosperous nation doesn't give entitled millennial 40-somethings more free stuff. I say this all the time. The problems that we are facing in our nation are not a matter of bickering between the left and the right. It's not a Democrat versus Republican problem. We are engaged in a spiritual battle of good versus evil. And the fact that the birth rate in the United States of America, that we are not replacing ourselves, that per capita we are producing fewer children than ever before in our nation's history, that is a result of spiritual warfare. That is a result of the bad side winning. And we will not be able to rectify that until first we acknowledge that we are in a spiritual battle of good versus evil, and we stop just saying no to evil and start actively pursuing good. All right, you've probably seen this story. An illegal alien who was working as a truck driver he committed an illegal U-turn in Florida recently, a couple of days ago. And the result of this illegal U-turn, he crashed into a car, and 3 people in that car that he crashed into after his illegal U-turn, he killed 3 people. And this is the video of it. It's worth watching the video before we update you today on the recent developments in this case. This is the crime that was committed. Take a look. So as you can see, he's driving in the car, looking out the window, U-turn, resulting in an absolutely totaled car. And what do you see in this picture? You see that driver, this illegal alien, standing to the side of the road as if he hadn't just murdered 3 people. Standing to the side of the road looking unbothered, unruffled, stone cold emotionally. Look at him. If you got into a car wreck, even by accident, even if you had not just committed an illegal U-turn and you hurt someone, what would your reaction be? Would you be standing there stoic? Or would you be beside yourself? He shouldn't have been in our country in the first place. And these 3 American citizens would still be alive. Which is, of course, the material point. When we talk about mass deportations, when we talk about the dangers that are posed to our country with illegal immigration, this is what we're talking about. When someone loses their lives, it's not just a news headline that disappears the very next day. These are 3 people whose lives are over. A family devastated. And perhaps the worst part is it didn't have to happen. Well, fast forward to today. This illegal alien failed the test that allowed him to even drive that truck in the first place. This is reported by Colin Rugg. The illegal immigrant who's accused of taking 3 American lives while making an illegal U-turn was only able to accurately identify 1 of 4 highway traffic signs during an FMCSA interview. Harjinder Singh failed failed an assessment conducted by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. This is according to U.S. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy. He only answered 2 of 12 verbal questions, means he was not proficient in English, and was only able to identify accurately 1 of 4 traffic signs. This is what the U.S. Department of Transportation said. During FMCSA's interview with the driver, investigators administered an English language proficiency assessment. The driver failed the assessment, providing correct responses to just 2 of 12 verbal questions and only accurately identifying 1 of 4 highway traffic signs. Rugg reports that Singh was still somehow able to obtain licenses in multiple states, including Washington State, New Mexico, and of course, Gavin Newsom's California. Secretary Duffy said if states had followed the rules, this driver would never have been behind the wheel and 3 precious lives would still be with us. This crash was a preventable tragedy directly caused by reckless decisions and compounded by despicable failures. Non-enforcement and radical immigration policies have turned the trucking industry into a lawless frontier, resulting in unqualified foreign drivers improperly acquiring licenses to operate 40-ton vehicles. We will use every tool at our disposal, Secretary Duffy said, to hold these states and bad actors accountable. It's not just a matter of illegal aliens crossing our borders. That's a big part of it. A big, big part of it. But one of the things that the Biden administration did, and the Obama administration before him also did this, began it, is they ushered in a mindset of maximum permissibility, which means it wasn't just that they did not secure our southern border and thus the flow of illegal aliens came into our nation. It's that once these illegal aliens were here, they did everything in their power through policies and through negligence to keep these people here. Because the left wants illegals to flood our nation. So the next time you see a headline from CNN or MSNBC, next time you hear a leftist on X bemoaning mass deportations, they're separating families, they say, you ask them about these 3 Americans who were separated from their families because Gavin Newsom's California gave this illegal alien a driver's license, a trucking license, even though he failed the test. Maximum permissibility. All in the name of what? Loving your neighbor, Gavin Newsom? What about these 3 Americans who are permanently separated from not only their families, but their lives? This is why the vast majority of the American people, even if they're on the left, this of course does not include the politicians on the left, the vast majority of the American people support President Trump's immigration policies because this is our experience with the Democrats' illegal immigration and maximum permissibility for these illegals once they're here. This is our personal experience in our families, with our friends, people we know, in our communities, in our cities, in our states. This is what we experience. And the Democrats try to tell us that if we want to be good people, if we want to be welcoming, if we want to be good Americans and good Christians, that we have to allow this. They're liars. Reject that. All right. Again, I apologize for the audio issue with our guest earlier. We will fix that and repost the episode. So if you caught the live stream and you weren't able to hear him as well as you wanted to, that will be fixed when we repost it. We'll repost it on YouTube. We'll repost it on X. And of course, a little bit later when it goes up on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, his audio levels will be adjusted in post-production by our wonderful editors. So I thank you for sticking with us through the little audio glitch. But that's part of live production. Sometimes things don't go exactly as you would plan them. It's still worth sitting here live streaming with y'all. I appreciate it. Very interesting, very encouraging to hear what Matt Nuclear had to say. Farouk said, "Hey Liz, really appreciate your wisdom. Great broadcast. Thank you. It's so wonderful to sit here with you guys day in and day out. Make sure you're subscribed to the show on YouTube, youtube.com/Liz Wheeler, on X at x.com/Liz_Wheeler, on Spotify. Just search The Liz Wheeler Show. Hit subscribe. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it, and it helps other people be able to find the show as well. All right. Thanks for watching today. Thanks for listening. I'm Liz Wheeler. This is The Liz Wheeler Show.